It was imported from Japan to Britain for the prettiness. It's got those lovely white flowers coming up in September. When it's young, that shade of red, that almost purple, is very nice. The earliest herbarium specimens in the Northeast are from the late 19th century, so like 1880s, 1890s. And so, it's been around at least since then, but it's only recently become invasive because of, transportation issues where, it gets stuck in a car, people carry it somewhere, it gets onto the riverbanks and all this extreme flooding. And there is a crossbreed down in, I want to say it's Philadelphia, that does have some viability by seed, but not up here. Up here it's sterile. Knotweed, once it's established, it's very hard to remove, but if you can start small and get the isolated individual, get the new growth, you can actually start some very effective containment techniques.
Yeah, I've been really concerned about Hurricane Irene. One of the things that Hurricane Irene did was it certainly moved a lot of material downstream, and as it moved some of that material had Japanese knotweed in it. It's a really aggressive plant. And in displacing it and replacing it somewhere further downstream in some of our floodplain forests, it has a great jump start there. And as our floodplain forests, as they need to be evolving and regenerating themselves, if there's Japanese knotweed there growing in the understory, it's going to be very difficult for them to come back as forests. So it's been critical. There have been people out there trying to pull out these little root fragments, and they've been doing a great job.
With new knotweed, with new flood debris. So this one, I did not get the whole thing, and I did not even get the original flood debris piece. But normally when you do something like this, there's often a chunk that's sort of rotted, and you can see that it's an old piece of root and an old piece of stem, and there's a root coming out of it and like one stem coming up out, and you can actually remove the entire plant. I didn't get the whole plant at all, but this is the vast majority of it, because I don't know, you can see this, it's starting to bud here, it's starting to bud there and there, so this is a nice vibrant piece of growth that came off of that flood debris. But you can see there's no other stems coming out, there's no other leaves coming out, and so that little piece of flood debris put all its energy into this, and there's a very good chance it won't put up another one. If you happen to have floodplain land or know someone with floodplain land, what you want to do is go look for something like what we've got here, about this size, about this shape, and bring a shovel. Sometimes it's a big chunk of root like this, sometimes it's just a little twig like that, and that's all that everything grew out of. So if you can remove the source material, it's gone. And then this network that develops, you've solved the problem before it occurred. It's that theme of, an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. Getting ahead of it before it really matters. One of the big concerns about knotweed, other than that it's invasive and that biodiversity, when you get a stand established, drops by about half. It encourages erosion from underneath and from above and from within. And so, like these stands here with nothing growing in them, when the waters come through here, there's nothing holding soil down. When you've got something that's, say, 6 foot of root depth, if the river decides to move and start to undercut the bank, these trees here have a much bigger root system that holds soil. Whereas when you saw me pulling those things up, did you see how the dirt just shook right out of them? They don't hold soil. And so, like that bank directly across from us, how undercut it is, or how much the floodplain is separated from the river, to have the river start to carve out underneath it, get that whole bank to sink, and start the process over again somewhere else. Knotweed really does have a very strong destabilizing effect on banks. Wardsboro Brook is one of the nastiest ones that, raged during Irene. And I can't say that knotweed had a direct impact, but the chances are fairly good that it did not help the situation, and that things washed out because there was knotweed that wasn't holding onto the bank, and that knotweed had shaded out bigger, better riparian growth that would have held things down. Maybe not completely, but better. Go for the tribs first, absolutely, because they are going to contribute their load to the main stem. If you do a great job cleaning up the main stem and a big storm washes something out, and you sort of have to start over, and that's not much fun. But at the same time, it's really important to take the time to check out the main stem and see what low-hanging fruit there is, because if you only focus on the tribs and you let the main stem go, by the time you're done with the tribs, you've got this endless, hopeless forest up and down the main. So it really is, you take what you can, you go for the low-hanging fruit, and sure, you prioritize, but that doesn't mean that that's all that you do. It's not set in stone. It's hard work, it requires time and effort and money and energy and the whole thing. But if you want to work on invasives, this actually isn't that, it's just not that intimidating, in the sense that you can actually check off your accomplishments box and feel confident about it, and not have to worry about the seed bank, and not really have to worry about it being in interior forests. Like you come down here, you look for knotweed. We're not looking up there because it's above the flood. Maybe we'll be looking for some from the road, but we don't have to canvass the whole state. We have to go over the roads, the highways, the byways, and up and down the rivers. And people are on the rivers all the time. They're well trafficked. It's easy to stay informed about a river and to pass information along about it. It's easy to keep your eyes on the highways and spot new plants as you drive to and from work or to and from your friends. You can get this to a point of tolerance. It really becomes a community issue and a community effort. And it becomes, you being informed and you being concerned and you talking to your neighbors, like, hi, select board, or hi, leader of the community, this is something that we care about and this is something that we can do something about. It's just really an issue of getting the word out a little bit more and making people understand and feel like they can do something about it, and that it's not hopeless and that it's not endless, and that you can do something and make progress and get to a good spot, and it is linear. It's not this amorphous blob that you're always fighting and you never know where it's going to end up next. There's a line that you can follow and expect success and expect results and expect a finish line. And with a lot of invasives work, that finish line concept doesn't really apply. And I think that with knotweed, it can apply, assuming people want it to, and assuming people are willing to start the race and get to the finish line.